जय विष्णु बात करूँ तो परिवार के कार्य स्तोत्र श्री श्रीमद से भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन संस्थापकाचार्य से जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। निताय गौर प्रेम मंदिर। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिके। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3 entitled The Status Quo, Chapter 1 entitled Questions by Vidura, Text number 7. Yadā sabhāyāṁ kuru-deva-devyāḥ. Yadā sabhāyāṁ kuru-deva-devyāḥ. Yadā sabhāyāṁ kuru-deva-devyāḥ. keśābhimarśaṁ suta-karma garhyam. keśābhimarśaṁ suta-karma garhyam. keśābhimarśaṁ suta-karma garhyam. na vārayām asa nṛpaḥ snuṣāyāḥ. na vārayām asa nṛpaḥ snuṣāyāḥ. na vārayām asa nṛpaḥ snuṣāyāḥ. svāsrair harantyāḥ kuca-kuṅkumāni. svāsrair harantyāḥ kuca-kuṅkumāni. svāsrair harantyāḥ kuca-kuṅkumāni. yadā sabhāyāṁ kuru-deva-devyāḥ. keśābhimarśaṁ suta-karma garhyam. na vārayāmāsa nṛpaḥ snuṣāyāḥ. svāsrair harantyāḥ kuca-kuṅkumāni. yadā sabhāyāṁ kuru-deva-devyāḥ. keśābhimarśaṁ suta-karma garhyam. na vārayāmāsa nṛpaḥ snuṣāyāḥ. svāsrair harantyāḥ kuca-kuṅkumāni.
yadā sabhāyāṁ kuru-deva-devyāḥ.
yadā sabhāyāṁ kuru-deva-devyāḥ. keśābhimarśaṁ suta-karma garhyam. na vārayāmāsa nṛpaḥ snuṣāyāḥ. svāsrair harantyāḥ kuca-kuṅkumāni. yadā sabhāyāṁ kuru-deva-devyāḥ. keśābhimarśaṁ suta-karma garhyam.
na vārayāmāsa
nṛpaḥ snuṣāyāḥ. svāsrair harantyāḥ kuca-kuṅkumāni. yadā when sabhāyāṁ the assembly kuru-deva-devyāḥ of Draupadī, the wife of godly Yudhiṣṭhira. keśābhimarśaṁ, insult by grabbing her hair, suta-karma, action taken by his son, garhyam, which was abominable, did not, vārayām, forbid, nṛpaḥ, the king, snuṣāyāḥ, of his daughter-in-law, svāsrair, by her tears, harantyāḥ, of she who was washing, kuca-kuṅkumāni, red dust on her breast. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The king did not forbid his son Duḥśāsana's abominable action of grabbing the hair of Draupadī, the wife of the godly King Yudhiṣṭhira, even though her tears washed the red dust on her breast. Please repeat this translation. The king did not forbid his son Duḥśāsana's abominable action of grabbing the hair of Draupadī, wife of the godly King Yudhiṣṭhira, even though her tears washed the red dust on her breast. Next day. Dyute tva-dharmena jitasya sadho satyāvalambasya vanandakasya nayācato-dāt samayena dāyam tamo juṣāno yadā shatro. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. Yudhiṣṭhira, who was born without any enemy, was unfairly defeated in gambling. But because he had taken the vow of truthfulness, he went off to the forest. When he came back in due course and begged the return of his rightful share of the kingdom, he was refused by Dhritarashtra, who was overwhelmed by illusion. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira was rightful heir to his father's kingdom. But just to favor his own sons, headed by Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, Maharaj Yudhiṣṭhira's uncle, adopted various unfair means to cheat his nephews of their rightful share of the kingdom. At last the Pandavas demanded only 5 villages, one for each of the 5 brothers. But that was also refused by the usurpers. This incident led to the war of Kurukshetra. The battle of Kurukshetra therefore was induced by the Kurus and not the Pandavas. As Kshatriyas, the proper livelihood of the Pandavas was only to rule and not to accept any other occupation. A Brahmana, Kshatriya or Vaishya will not accept employment for his livelihood under any circumstances. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada. Om ajnānatimirandasya jnānāñjana-śalakaya chakṣurummilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prajamine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasarate Satrame Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivāsari Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Shukadeva Goswami is describing the meeting of Vidura and Maitreya Rishi. What were the circumstances under which Vidura left the palace of Hastinapura and traveled to different places of pilgrimage and eventually met Maitreya Rishi, with whom he had discussions about Srimad Bhagavatam. So the background is being described by Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. The background is the background of the Mahabharata itself. If you are already aware of the story of Mahabharata, then you know the background. But I'll just try to fill in some few points here. The Pandavas actually, the father of the Pandavas, King Pandu, he was the younger brother of his father, son of his father, youngest son. Dhritarashtra was the elder brother. So Dhritarashtra should have inherited the throne, but because Dhritarashtra was blind by birth, so he could not get the throne of Hastinapura to rule over. So the throne went to Pandu. Pandu died young, before his sons could grow up and take charge of ruling the kingdom of Hastinapura. Pandu died when his children were very small. So therefore, Yudhiṣṭhira, who was the rightful heir to the throne of Hastinapura, because he was not an adult when Pandu died. So Yudhiṣṭhira had to wait. So Bhishma made the arrangement. Bhishma was the eldest member of the family. So he did not want to sit on the throne. He could have been the caretaker king. But he had taken a vow he is not going to sit on the throne. So therefore Bhishma told Dhritarashtra to be the caretaker king while Yudhiṣṭhira is growing up, and finally Yudhiṣṭhira is supposed to take charge of ruling the kingdom, whose capital city is Hastinapura. Now Dhritarashtra, while he was caretaker king, he was thinking that I was denied because I was blind by birth. But even my sons will be denied the opportunity to rule the kingdom. So he began to think that how is it possible for me to make my sons the emperors of the world, not the Pandavas. So he was blinded by his affection for his sons, because of which he allowed Duryodhana and few other brothers of Duryodhana, his sons, to use unfair means to kill the Pandavas and thereby take over ruling the kingdom of Hastinapura. So many attempts were made, and once in a gambling match, Draupadī was lost by the Pandavas in the gambling match. So Draupadī became the property of the winners, Kauravas, as their maidservant. And even as a maidservant, she was ill-treated. Duḥśāsana, one of the brothers of Duryodhana, he grabbed the hair of Draupadī and brought her into the assembly. Sabhāyāṁ is described in the Bhagavatam elsewhere in the first canto. Sabhāyāṁ, it is not a assembly of gentlemen. It is assembly of asat, uncivilized, uncultured people, because Draupadī, the most chaste lady, was insulted in that assembly. Actually, Vidura protested. The Pandavas were unable to do anything because they had become slaves of the Kauravas, having been lost in the gambling match. And Draupadī also was lost, and therefore the Pandavas could not protect Draupadī. But Vidura protested, and Vidura was actually not allowed to stop this insult of Draupadī on the grounds that dharma, the rules of Dharma Shastra, allow somebody who becomes victorious in a gambling match and takes somebody as a maidservant to actually treat her as a maidservant. But still, the entire assembly was actually not properly applying the rules of the Dharma Shastra, except for Vidura. So that assembly was actually polluted by misapplication of Dharma Shastra. That just because a lady is a maidservant, she cannot be ill-treated or mistreated or insulted the way Draupadī was insulted by Duḥśāsana. And it is also described here, these are all events leading to the battle of Kurukshetra. That's what is being described here. The battle of Kurukshetra was not due to the Pandavas, it was due to the Kauravas. Even Yudhiṣṭhira was unfairly defeated in the gambling match. He was cheated. But he was so truthful that he had agreed that if I lose the match, I'll go to the forest. So, just because he was defeated unfairly, Duryodhana demanded, now you go to the forest. And Yudhiṣṭhira, even though he knew that he was defeated unfairly, still, because he had agreed to go to the forest on being defeated, he went away to the forest. And when he came back in due course of time, fulfilling all the conditions, Dhritarashtra refused to return the kingdom which actually belonged to Yudhiṣṭhira. And it is described here, that was the reason. In fact, the Pandavas, they did not want to fight for the sake of the kingdom. So the Pandavas reduced their request of their share of the kingdom to just 5 villages for 5 brothers. Because a Kshatriya, his occupation, rightful occupation according to scriptures, is that he has to protect the citizens, collect taxes and maintain himself. So the Pandavas, duty bound as Kshatriyas to maintain their livelihood by giving protection to the citizens. They just begged for ruling 5 villages, minimum, bare minimum. They collect taxes from the villagers and they will protect them and rule that small village, 5 villages. But Duryodhana, actually Dhritarashtra, being influenced by Duryodhana, he refused even that. Then war was inevitable, and the Pandavas had to challenge. the Kauravas. Therefore, the battle of Kurukshetra was induced by the Kauravas, not by the Pandavas. And it is also explained here, the proper livelihood is to rule for a Kshatriya, not to accept any other occupation. This is the Varnashrama Dharma. Varnashrama Dharma, the occupation, the engagement, the rules, regulations are so arranged that ultimately it leads to everyone making spiritual progress towards ultimate self-realization. Why should the Shastras say what occupation a particular person has to accept? For Kshatriyas, for Brahmanas, for Vaishyas, for Shudras, everyone. Why? Why not allow people to just do something, whatever they like to do or they can do? No. It is because only if they accept the proper occupation according to the guna and karma and according to the direction of the scriptures, will they be able to pursue self-realization. And we can see in the modern society, people don't exactly accept a proper occupation directed by the scriptures, but they do whatever they like to do. They think somehow, at least the pious people think, if you honestly earn some money, doesn't matter what occupation we are engaged in. But what they don't realize is, in addition to honestly earning one's livelihood, one should also see whether he can make spiritual progress on the path of self-realization. That is a primary consideration. And doing something for earning some money to maintain oneself is secondary. In fact, the scriptures say that other than the human being, all other species, they are not working according to some rule, some law. They are getting their maintenance. The birds, the bees, the insects, they are being maintained by the Supreme Lord, the Creator, the maintainer. God is maintaining everyone. So actually maintenance is not necessarily required to be provided for by some work. This is a misconception in the modern society. That to maintain yourself, you have to do some work. No. That's not the way the world is created. If you go to the Himalayas and you see the saintly persons who have been trained to live in certain places there, where there is plenty of water, plenty of fruits, there are caves where one can live very nicely, and there are barks of tree for covering oneself. So everything is provided for. Why? So that they save time for doing the real business of human life. That is self-realization. So actually, somebody who cannot completely dedicate themselves for self-realization entirely, such people, for them some occupational duty is recommended in the scriptures. But the primary consideration is the particular occupational duty for the person will enable him to very easily maintain himself while working and also pursuing spiritual life. That's the main business of the human being. The animals cannot practice spiritual life. The animals cannot understand what is the ultimate goal of life. They simply are able to somehow eat, sleep, defend themselves. In this way, the entire life is spent. There is no particular achievement or goal for the lower animals. But a human being should have a particular aim in life. And this is the criticism Prabhupada had for the modern society. He always used to ask, what is your aim of life? What is your aim of life? Because people don't have proper knowledge, they think when death comes, everything is finished. So anyway, death is going to come and everything will be over. So before death comes, let me try to enjoy life. Yes, we are seekers of happiness. We always want to be happy. That's a fact. That's natural. That's our fundamental nature. That's because we are part of God, whose fundamental nature is always He is an Ananda. Anandamayo abhyasat. The Vedanta Sutra says, Anandamaya means full of Ananda. That's the nature of God. If God is full of Ananda and we are His part, we should also be always full of Ananda. Unfortunately, our position in this material world is such that when we accept birth along with this birth in the material world, there is always some distress, some unhappiness, some misery, some dukkha, always. So therefore our tendency is to overcome all these miseries and constantly seek happiness. And that's natural, that's proper. But not seek happiness by having the misunderstanding that happiness should be with reference to the body or mind. This is because everybody thinks in terms of the self, aham, I, atma, I am the body or I am the mind. This is the misunderstanding, misconception. So their whole calculation is completely wrong. That they can be happy if they secure some pleasure for the senses or for the mind. And because the basic understanding is wrong, the starting point is wrong, so all their endeavors are bound to be a failure. Ultimately, when they seek real happiness, they are unsuccessful. They are a failure. Durāṣayāye bahirarthamānimaha. Bhagavatam declares, anybody who considers the body or the mind to be the self and based on that wrong understanding pursues happiness for the self based on giving pleasure to the senses of the mind is bound to be a failure. So, therefore, the important point in the scriptures is human society should be organized according to varnashrama, dharma. And there the specific occupation is given. Only a person who is in the category of Shudra, he should accept employment. He should work under a master. For what? Even for his livelihood. But a Brahmana, Kshatriya or Vaishya who has developed intelligence more than the Shudra should never accept occupational work which is an employment under a master. Why? What is wrong? Because a Brahmana, Kshatriya or Vaishya should always be independent. Only then they can actually do their work in such a way that they can progress in spiritual life also, along with doing their occupational duty. If a Brahmana, Kshatriya or Vaishya is subservient to a master, then they cannot go against the order of their master, and they'll be obliged to do things which are against their own ultimate self-interest. For example, a very simple example can be given. Like Hiranyakashipu, he was a demon. He was an asura. So he had one Brahmana priest, Shukracharya. Shukracharya's sons, Shanda and Namarka, they were employed by Hiranyakashipu, the king, to teach Hiranyakashipu's sons and the sons of the other demons, associates of Hiranyakashipu. So Shanda and Namarka, because they accepted employment from Hiranyakashipu, so they had to teach what Hiranyakashipu wanted them to teach, not what is proper according to the Shastra. So Hiranyakashipu ordered Shanda and Namarka, teach my sons economic development, politics, diplomacy. You see? So they were bound to teach that. But that's not what the Shastra says. That should be taught. Shastra says, teach truthfulness. Don't teach diplomacy. But they could not, because they are, even Shukracharya also, when Bali Maharaj, the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, when he wanted to give dana, charity, so Shukracharya was calculating, if Bali Maharaj gives charity and he loses his kingdom, Shukracharya was calculating, I will become jobless. And what about my maintenance? So therefore he prevented Bali Maharaj from giving charity, from giving dana. See what happens if somebody is employed, dependent. That's why the scriptures say a Brahmana, a Kshatriya and a Vaishya should never be dependent on another person for his livelihood. Never accept employment. Only then the Brahmana can do his duty as a Brahmana properly and thereby make spiritual progress. A Kshatriya can do his duty and make spiritual progress, or a Vaishya can do his duty and do spiritual progress. Never accept employment. So modern education system, what is it doing? Teaching everybody become a first class Shudra. Bhagavatam points this out. Why? Because all these big technological degrees in universities means they have to get a suitable employment. Nobody is trained up how to be independent. That training is not there. Everybody is being made dependent on employment, suitable employment. Even the government is thinking, oh, we have to arrange for suitable employment. There's an employment exchange, and there is, in foreign countries, they even say, what is the percentage of the population which is unemployed or underemployed? And that is one of the economic measures of how good the economy is of a country. You see? Not that by God's grace there is plenty for everyone. Nobody need to actually get employment, earn some money and then get some food and get their maintenance. No. This is not God's arrangement. When there is fertile land and there is proper rainfall, just throw some seeds and there is so much grains, there is so much crop. Nothing need to be done. Not much work. So agriculture is particularly for civilized human beings. Agriculture is particularly for civilized human beings. Why? Because they grow grains, which is particularly food for human beings. They protect cows. You get milk, these grains and milk and some vegetables and fruits. One can easily maintain oneself and get all the necessities from Mother Earth. This is human civilization, civilized human life. You don't have to work like finding an employment, earn money, and then get some food, get some clothes, get some necessities. No. Anybody in any part of the world can live off the land and cows. So, the scriptures describe agriculture, cow protection, with the aim of self-realization, is especially for civilized human beings. You don't see agricultural activity among other species of life. Agriculture is exclusively for human beings, civilized human beings. So when people neglect agriculture, what happens? There is so much of scarcity, artificial scarcity. They don't allow people to cultivate fields nowadays. They say go and work in a factory. We have experience, we got near Mysore, we got a farm, organic farm. There were so many people employed in that organic farm. Nicely they were living. And they were being trained up in how to actually grow food without chemicals. Organic farming training was also given. And then this construction boom in Bangalore. So many laborers are required for building these multi-story buildings. And they want to do it in very quick, short time. So they go to these villages and bring all these agricultural laborers by promising to pay them double, 3 times the daily wages. if they get 200 rupees per day, agricultural work, for the ugra karma, horrible pungent work they do in the city, they are paid 400 rupees, 500 rupees per day. So he being lured by such big money, instant, quick money, they give up agricultural work, they come to the city, and you see in city they can't afford to live in a proper house. No proper housing in the city. Where do they live? They live in slums. And because they don't have intelligence, they will misuse the money they are getting. If they work in a field, agricultural field, automatically they get their food. They don't have to buy food. Because they're growing. There is plenty of milk, there is plenty of grains, there is vegetables, there is fruits. They don't have to purchase. But these fellows are less intelligent. They come to the city, they get more money, everything they have to purchase. Grains they have to purchase, fruits they have to purchase, vegetables they have to purchase, milk they have to purchase. But in city, because they are less intelligent, they also get into so many bad habits, which is generally not easily available in the villages or agricultural field. They get into drinking, smoking, and all kinds of nonsense, sinful activities. This is unknown to these people. They are leading a simple life. They were peaceful, they were happy, they were contented. But their life is completely spoiled. They come to the city. And now agriculture is neglected. And the government, for your information, is importing so much of basic grains, pulses. We are importing so much of dal from Canada, Australia, so much. And the irony is, even if we were to grow in India, because we have lost all our ancient practices, our farmers, if we grow something now, today, they have to buy seeds, they have to buy fertilizer, they have to buy pesticides, they have to buy or rent a tractor. And then there are any number of machines for harvesting, for everything there's a machine. So everything costs money. To produce dal, by growing in our own country, it costs more than importing dal, which is grown in Canada. Even though the cost of transportation is very high. But still it is cheaper to get from Canada for the government than it is for our farmers to grow in our own country. See what the government has done? Bringing in technology. Why this is happening? Because they brought in technology. They brought technology, so they brought industries. So industry means people give up agriculture and come to work in industries. And because people are giving up agriculture, so apparently there is a scarcity of food grain production. And to increase the food grain production, they have to bring in some so-called technology, green revolution. So put fertilizer, try to increase the yield. See, nature is anyway giving. You sow one seed, how much you get? So much multiplied, isn't it? But people have become greedy now. So they want high-yielding seeds. So they buy seeds. Nobody used to buy seeds in this country. Never. In the history of human civilization, probably never anybody has purchased seeds manufactured in some technological laboratory. God's arrangement that you grow, just like you have a mango tree, so many mango fruits you get. One mango seed you take and sow it, another mango tree will give thousands of mangoes, year after year for decades. But no, you have to buy some seed. That seed is useless. So they're destroying this kind of agriculture. Some vested interests in the Western countries, especially America. They have terminator seeds. That means you buy seed, you sow them, you get a crop. The crop you get, those seeds, you cannot produce anything out of that. How demoniac is it? Why? Because you have to go back to them for seeds. Then only the seed business will flourish, will go on. You see, if you have cow protection, you naturally get fertilizer. Naturally you get cow dung, so much cow dung. That's very good fertilizer. No. People don't do any cow protection. So no cow dung, so they buy fertilizer. And those fertilizers are all harmful chemicals manufactured in their technological laboratory. Fertilizer companies. Then natural pesticides are there. Neem tree, you grow neem tree and some other few other trees. They naturally keep away pests. But nobody grows neem trees. So they have to buy pesticide. Then they had bullocks, oxen for plowing the field, for separating the grains from the plant, for everything. The ox power was there. Now no more cow protection. So no oxen, no bullocks, so machines. Everything they require machine now. And those machines are available only in the Western countries.